Hi, Manager Karen. Thanks for meeting with us today so we can go over our business presentation for Uber's Senior Vice President of Mobility and Business Operations, Mr. Andrew McDonald. To begin our meeting, Colin and I plan on first recapping on the vision, goals, and needs that determine whether or not our product has the right business value for Uber. We plan on doing this by utilizing a slide deck so the precise nature of our goals can be easily understood. Starting with the account strategic value, Uber intends to become the leader in environmentalism when it comes to the rideshare business. Their first goal that they want to achieve by 2030 is to have 100% of rides take place in electric vehicles throughout the United States, Canadian cities, and European cities. This will help them achieve their 2040 goal of becoming a net zero emissions company. Moving on to their 6 to 12 months priority business goals. Uber's had a rough year given the COVID-19 pandemic. Originally, they had planned to become a profitable company by the end of 2020, although the pandemic has made that very difficult. As vaccines roll out and transmission rates lower in the United States, Uber intends on finally becoming a profitable company by the end of the third quarter of 2021. As for their sustainability goals, while they have milestones in place for several years out, throughout 2021, they're focused on expanding Uber Green by encouraging both riders and drivers to ride in environmentally friendly vehicles. However, the issue that they're facing is that currently Uber is using financial incentives to entice riders and drivers to do this, further increasing Uber's net losses and driving them further from their profitability goals.
Lastly, before getting into our recommendation, we'll direct our attention to our audience, Andrew McDonald's specific needs.
From our previous conversations, we've established that you have two main needs that you actively work to meet. The first of which is to provide transportation that is reliable and available to everyone everywhere. Unfortunately, because of the COVID-19 pandemic, drivers have stopped working as they're afraid to contract the COVID-19 virus. This brings us to your second need, to resolve the issue with the ongoing driver shortage.
We'll then ask Andrew if this is correct and if he wanted to comment on any of these needs with a question like, was this correct? Or was there anything else you wanted to add before we move on to our recommendation? So we here at Hyundai Mobis have established great features that will come with our autonomous vehicles. Now, being only electric vehicles, Uber will reduce company-wide emissions, which will help Uber in reaching their sustainability goals, while also improving upon their company image. Now, additionally, being fully autonomous will lower the cost of drivers' wages, which will increase the company's profitability. And lastly, our radar sensors will help in preventing collisions and reducing human error in driving, thus increasing the safety of these autonomous vehicles and our passengers. So now, in terms of the logistics of these autonomous vehicles, let me explain how the process will all work. So first, the car will be summoned through the Uber app when a user requests a ride. Now, once the car pulls up, the user will input the code given to them through the Uber app onto the keypad, which will be on every one of our autonomous vehicles. Now, once in the vehicle, the car will begin its route. Now, as they reach their final destination, the car will come to a stop and wait for the user to confirm that they've exited the vehicle through the Uber app. The vehicle will then drive to either its next pickup or its default, the nearest Uber charging station, where an attendant will be waiting to plug the vehicle in if need be. Now, the Uber charging stations will be set up accordingly within the cities that take on our autonomous vehicle project. And lastly, if the vehicles are on low charge, it will refrain from picking up more users and automatically return to the Uber charging station.
At this point, we want to role play an objection, specifically a skepticism that Mr. McDonald might have.
Even before taking into account privately owned vehicles, I don't think there's enough charging stations to handle our whole fleet of electric vehicles.
I understand what you mean, but let me ease your concerns. According to the Department of Energy, there's already 41,400 electric vehicle charging stations all throughout the United States. Does this help you?
Yes, thank you for clarifying that.
As we represent Hyundai Mobis, an auto parts manufacturer, how exactly our partnership will work is a bit unique. Initially, Uber will buy the vehicles from Hyundai, our parent company, who we normally service and create technology and parts for. How we fit in the picture is by implementing our proprietary technology in conjunction with Uber's app. Additionally, we'll work to ensure our technology is working smoothly, and in the case a car needs maintenance, we at Hyundai Mobis provide maintenance services to ensure Uber's customers are experiencing safe rides to where they need to go.
Now for starting out our project, we recommend that Uber purchases 200 fully electric autonomous vehicles. We plan to pioneer this project in San Francisco, where headquarters is for Uber. The plan in San Francisco is to test how well these autonomous vehicles can operate in one city that is near the headquarters, so that we can monitor them closely for a 1 to 2 year period. Additionally, being a large city, we will gain plenty of exposure to the rest of the world on Hyundai Mobis and Uber's autonomous vehicle project. Once the 1 to 2 year period is up, depending how well the vehicles perform in San Francisco, we plan to branch out the autonomous vehicle project to other large cities around the United States. Now, there's been a shift to classify Uber drivers as employees that's been gaining lots of momentum in recent years. In February of 2021, the United Kingdom Supreme Court dismissed Uber's appeal and stated that Uber drivers are rightfully found as workers for the company and should be treated as such. As of May of 2021, the United States Supreme Court turned away Uber's bid to avoid a lawsuit over whether the drivers of Uber Black, Uber's limousine platform, are employees and not contractors as the company claims them to be. Although the case will be reviewed later by the Court of Appeals for the Third Circuit, this does not take away from the fact that Uber is still facing dozens of lawsuits regarding the employment status of their drivers. Already, drivers' wages make up for 80% of Uber's total expenses. As seen in this graphic, if the United States Supreme Court were to classify Uber drivers as employees, it could cost up to $4.1 billion more annually. With lawsuits threatening to increase these expenses, the simplest solution happens to be the one we're offering you today. We need to stop paying the drivers. We aren't advocating for unfair wages, but rather removing the drivers from the picture entirely, as to avoid paying them altogether. Uber's been interested in autonomous taxis and has been cited all over the media for heading towards an autonomous future. There will be more room for financial gain and profitability by avoiding the need to pay drivers compensation for their services. In the long run, Uber will have built up a high business value from their initial commitment to autonomous vehicles.
Like we stated before, using our autonomous vehicles will cut on driver costs altogether. With every vehicle being completely autonomous, Uber will not have to worry about issues regarding employee benefits and wages, as well as avoiding lawsuits involving controversial employment topics. Inherently, this will decrease Uber's overhead costs and result in a higher profit margin. Lastly, having all our vehicles be electric will help reduce carbon emissions from entering the atmosphere. And having control over vehicles you put out rather than trying to incentivize drivers will be more eco-friendly, will expedite the process of Uber's goal towards becoming a zero emissions company, as well as increase the profits retained to not incentivize the drivers and the riders. All of these values stated above could only improve the image of Uber and increase the overall profitability as a company, therefore increasing your company's value. Together with Hyundai Mobis, we can resolve different issues regarding your driver shortage, in addition to achieving zero emissions as a company. Lastly, when we're talking to Andrew, we will continue the sales process by asking questions such as, what do you think about having us present our proposition to your board? Could we arrange a meeting for next week?
Also, next we plan on role-playing one last objection, specifically a drawback that Mr. McDonald might have. Uber is not comfortable taking 100% of the liability. Since it is your product, you guys should be responsible if it fails.
I understand your hesitancy, Unfortunately, this just isn't something that we can do. I'd like to back up to the benefits of this program. By buying our autonomous electric vehicles, Uber will move closer to achieving their zero emission goals while increasing the number of Ubers available to the public, helping to reduce the effects of the driver shortages brought on by the COVID-19 pandemic. Additionally, in removing drivers from Uber's platform, Uber will be able to eliminate the costs associated with drivers, which account for 80% of Uber's overall expenses. Eliminating these costs will help make Uber a profitable company. How do you feel about the business value of these benefits?
I think we can make an arrangement.
We will then say our thank yous and we will leave the meeting.